Good morning, class, and welcome to the first aspect of database management system course. This lesson is to introduce you to the database management systems. So basically, after going through the course outline, which we have done already, we will talk about the various concepts under database management system. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Introduction and overview of the course. When we talk about database management system, the first keyword that we must know is data. So at least we should have a fair idea of what data is. Data are characteristics or information, usually numerical, that are collected through observations. In a more technical sense, one can say data are a set of values of qualitative or quantitative variables about one or more person or objects. In a singular term, data is pronounced as data, that is a single value of a single variable. One can also say that data is simply facts and statistics collected together for reference or for analysis. So these are some of the basic and fundamental definitions of data. In this case, if we know data, then what is a database? A database is an organized collection of structured information or data typically stored electronically in a computer system or typically stored electronically in a storage device. The data can be easily accessed, managed, modified, updated, controlled, and organized. Most databases use structured query language, that is SQL, for writing and also querying data. Whilst we now know what data is and database is, now let's move on to database management system, normally called DBMS. The database management system is a software designed to store, retrieve, define, and also manage data in a database. So now we know what data is, what database is, and database management system is. So the database management system is the software that the programmer or the software developer will design or develop in order to store, retrieve, define, and manage data in a database. Now let's look at some of the purpose of a database. Why do we even design database? The purpose of a database is to help businesses stay organized and keep information easily accessible so that one can also use it. But it isn't a magic solution to all your data concerns. First, you need to collect and input the data into a database. Database also provide the user with the processes of defining, constructing, and manipulating the database for various applications. Database systems are designed to manage large bodies of information. And the management of data involves both defining structures for storage of information, also providing the mechanisms for the manipulation of information. The primary goal of any database management system, that is a DBMS, is to provide a ways to store and retrieve data information that is both convenient and efficient. Now, let's look at file processing system and also database management system. We want to compare the two. A file processing system is a collection of programs that stored and manage file in a computer hard disk. It is also a way of storing, retrieving, and also manipulating data which is present in various files. And now the files are also used to store various documents. All files are grouped based on their categories. We want to look at how we move on from file processing system to database management system. So to better understand database management system, we want to look at what we mean by file processing system, which happens to be a method or an old way of storing data. So one would say it's a file processing system is a collection of programs that store and manage files in a computer disk. File processing system has more data redundancy as compared to database management system that has less data redundancy. And we'll talk about these things into details. And the file processing system also provides less flexibility in terms of accessing the data as compared to the DBMS, which has more flexibility in accessing the data. So as you can see on your screen, a diagram depicting a file processing system. These data are stored individually. There is no integration. They are not integrated. For example, when you look at a faculty data file and a class data file and also student data file, you use the faculty data file for payroll system, a class data file for class scheduling system, and also student data file for grade posting system. There is no integration. These types of files do not collaborate, or they do not share any kind of thing in common. So the various files are isolated. There is no integration. Let's look at some of the types of file processing system. And the first one is relative record number processing. The second one is consecutive processing. The third one is sequential by key processing. The fourth, random by key processing. And the last, but not the least, sequential within limit processing. So these are some of the types of the file processing system: relative record number processing, the consecutive processing, sequential by key processing, random by key processing, and sequential within limit processing. Let's look at some of the characteristics of the processing system, of a file processing system. One, it is a group of files storing data of an organization. Each file is independent from one another. Each file is called a flat file. And each file contained and processed information for one specific function, such as accounting or inventory. So these are some of the characteristics. And files are designed by using programs written in programming languages, such as COBOL, C, and C++. The physical implementation and access procedures are written into database application. Therefore, physical changes resulted in intensive real work on the part of the programmer. As systems become more complex, file processing systems offered little flexibility, presented many limitations, and were also difficult to maintain. So these are some of the characteristics of file processing system. Now let's look at some of the disadvantages of file processing system. Concurrent access, there is no concurrent access, separated and also isolated data, duplication of data, data dependence, difficulty in representing data from the user's view, data inflexibility, incompatible file formats. There are also issues of data security and also poor data modeling of real world. So these are some of the disadvantages of file processing system: concurrency access, separated and isolated data, duplication of data, data dependency, difficulty in representing data from the user's view, data inflexibility, incompatible file formats, data security, and also poor data modeling of real world. So as we move along the course, I'll be explaining the various disadvantages that I've just mentioned. Now let's look at a case study. For example, if this is a file, we have a general office, library, host, and also account office. You could see that there are some similarities with respect to these offices. That is name, class, father name, date of birth, address. They all appeared on library, hoster, and also account office. So for example, if we get the name of the person, the name of the person will appear on general office records. It also appears on the library, the hoster, and also account. So there is data redundancy, which will just take space for nothing. So when you have a file system like this, one, there is an issue of data redundancy. Two, storage space, because the same thing is stored on different locations, which doesn't make good use of space or memory. In this case, we can have a situation where these can be merged. These records can be merged, put together into a format we call a database, so that, for example, date of birth of an individual can just be taken once and can be accessed from any point in time when the data is integrated. Now, let's move on to a database management system, which I've already mentioned. That is a software for storing and also retrieving users' data while considering appropriate security measures. It consists of a group of programs which manipulate the database. They accept the request for data from an application and also instruct the operating system to provide the specific data. So as you can see on the diagram, we have the database here, and there is a database management systems here, which collate or integrate all the databases where an application can access it, a user can also access it. That is, users can access it concurrently and also at any point. Let's look at some of the history of database management system. Around the 1960s, Charles Bachman designed the first database management system. In 1970, Code also introduced IBM's information management system, that is IIMS. In 1976, Peter Chan also coined and defined the entity relationship model, also known as the ER model. In 1980, relational model became a widely accepted database component. And in 1985, object-oriented database management system was also developed. In 1990s, there was also incorporation of object orientation in relational database management systems. In 1991, Microsoft shifts MS Access, a personal DBMS, and that displaces all other personal DBMS products. In 1995, the first internet database application was developed. In 1997, XML applied to database processing, and many vendors begin to integrate XML into database management system products. So these are some of the short history of database management systems. In a large system, a database helps users and also other third-party software to store and retrieve data. DBMS allows users to create their own databases as per their requirement. And the term DBMS includes the user of the database and also other application programs. And finally, it provides an interface between the data and the application or the software application. Let's look at some of the advantages of database management system. So you could see that the DBMS came to solve the issues, that's the disadvantages that the file processing system have. For example, with respect to database management, there is data independency, efficient data access, data integrity and security, data administration, concurrency access, and also crash recovery, reduce application development time. So these are some of the advantages of database management system. It has also got its own disadvantages, that is the database management systems. The first one is database systems. They are complex, difficult, and also time-consuming to design. Substantial hardware and also software setup costs. It is very, very cost-intensive. Damage to database affects virtually all application programs. And also extensive conversion costs in moving from a file-based system to a database system. And also initial training required for all programmers and also users. So to use database management system, these are some of the issues that you can have with respect to implementing database management system. Database systems they are complex, they are difficult, and also time-consuming to design. They also require hardware and software setup costs. Damage to database affects virtually all application programs. And also, if you want to convert, if you want to convert a file-based system to a database management, there is also cost. And also, people, that's the users and also the programmers, they need an extensive training, initial training in order to handle database management system. Now let's look at some of the applications of DBMS. In our life. The first one is banking. Database management systems are utilized in the banking sector for most transactions. You can use your ATM to access your account, withdraw money, and even deposit through database management system. Airlines, you can make your airline reservation, also schedule an airline using a database management system. Universities also use database management system for students, registration, application, processing, results processing, and also generate transcript and other things. With respect to sales, customers and also other people also buy products online using database management system. And also manufacturing, that is, we also have production inventory management system, the supply chain management system. They also make use of database management system. You can also have a human resources. With respect to human resources field, we can have database management system. And now currently we have a lot of them social media sites making use of database management systems. Characteristics of database management system. They provide security and also removes redundancy. The second one is also self-describing nature of a database system, isolation between programs and also data abstraction, support of multiple views of the data, sharing of data and also multi-user transaction processing. It also allows entities and also relations among them to form tables. It also follows the asset concept, that is atomicity, consistency, isolation, also durability. And they also support multi-user environment that allows users to access and also manipulate data in parallel. Let's now compare database management system and also flat file. That is the file processing system. DBMS supports multiple users, whilst the flat file management system does not support multiple users. DBMS is designed to fulfill the need for small and large businesses. The file management system is only limited to smaller DBMS system. DBMS removes redundancy and also ensures integrity with respect to data. But with file management system, the issues of data redundancy and also integrity issues. DBMS is very, very expensive. File is cheap. And DBMS is also easy to implement complicated transactions. With respect to the file, there is no support for complicated transactions. Now, these are some of the popular DBMS software that you can find. We have MySQL, the Microsoft Access, the Oracle, the PostgreSQL, DBase, Fox Pro, SQLite, IBM DB2, the LibreOffice base, the MariaDB, the Microsoft SQL Server, and etc. So these are some of the popular database management system software that you can find. But for the purposes of our course, we will use the MySQL and also the Microsoft Access. But you can also practice your hands on the Oracle and other types of DBS management system, DBMS softwares. Now let's look at some of the types of DBMS. The first one is the hierarchical database. The second one is the network database. The third one is the relational database. And last but not the least is the object-oriented database. Now the hierarchical database. With respect to the hierarchical database, the model data is organized in a tree-like structure. That is, the data is stored in a form of a hierarchy, that is top-down or bottom-up format. The data is represented using the parent-child relationship. With respect to the hierarchical database management system, parents may have many children, but children have only one parent. Now, with respect to the network database management system, it allows each child to have multiple parents. It helps you to also address the need to model more complex relationships, like the orders and also the path to many relationships. In this model, entities are organized in a graph, which can be accessed through several paths. Now, with the relational model, it is the most widely used database management system because it is one of the easiest. This model is based on the normalizing data in the rows and columns of the tables, and the relational model stored in fixed structures and also manipulated using SQL. The last one is the Object-Oriented Database, popularly known as OODBMS, or Object-Oriented Database Management System, ODBMS. It's also a type of database that is based on object-oriented programming, that is OOP. The data is represented and stored in the form of objects. They are also called object database or object-oriented database management systems. Now let's look at some of that. I have about 20 advantages of database management system. I've already given some, but these are 20 solid advantages of having a database management system. The first one is minimize data redundancy. There is also the possibility of sharing data. Data consistency is also assured. Data integrity is assured. There is also the search capability. Security is assured. Privacy is assured. Simplicity is assured. There is also the possibility of backup and also data recovery. We also have integrity constraint, data atomicity, development of new applications, concurrency control, data migration, tenability. It also solves enterprise and also individual requirement, powerful user language, standards can also be enforced, maintain cost the maintaining cost is also lower and very less chances of data loss. So these are some 20 advantages of database management system that I have listed. Now, every database has users and also administrators. So now we are going to look at database users and these administrators. The database users are the one who really use and also take benefit of the database. There will be different types of users depending on their need and also way of accessing the database. We can have application programmer. They are those people who develops, or they are the developers who interact with the database by means of DML queries. These DML queries are written in the application programs like the C, Java, Pascal, etc. We also have the sophisticated users. They are also the database developer who write the SQL query to select, insert, delete, and also update data. They do not use any application or program to request the database. They directly interact with the database by means of a query language, such as the SQL, that is the structured query language. We also have the specialized users, and they are also sophisticated users, but they write special database application programs. They are the developers who develop the complex programs to the requirement. We also have the standalone users, and these are users, and these users will have a standalone database for personal use. And this kind of database will have ready-made database packages, which will have menus and also graphical interfaces. Now, the native users, they are the user who use the existing application to interact with the database. For example, online library system, ticket booking system, the ATM, which has existing application and users use them to interact with the database to fulfill their requests. We also have a database administrators. That is the life cycle of a database start from designing, implementing, and to also the administration of it. A database for any kind of requirement needs to be designed perfectly so that it should work without issues. Once all the design is complete, it needs to be installed. And once this step is complete, users start using the database. As the database grows, the data also grows in the database. When the database becomes huge, its performance also comes down, which means that accessing the data from the database becomes challenging. There will be some unused memory in database, making the memory also inevitably huge. To solve all these things, you need a special person who will take care of that. So this administration, also maintenance of the database, is being taken care of by what we call a database administrator. That's the DBA. Now let's look at some of the responsibilities of a database administrator. One is installing and also upgrading the database management system service, design and also implementation of the database, performance tuning, migrate data servers, backup, and also recover data, provide security and also documentation of the database. We can have different types of database administrators. The first one is administrative database That is, he is mainly concerned with the installation and also the maintenance of the database management service. You also have the development database administrator, who is also responsible for creating queries and also procedure for the requirement. Basically, his task is similar to any database developer. We also have the database architect, whose responsibility is for creating and also maintaining the users, roles, access rights, data tables, views, constraints, and also indices. He is mainly responsible for designing the structure of the database depending on the requirement. And these structures will be used by developers and development of database administrator to code. We also have a data warehouse person. We also have the application, and also we also have the OLAP DBA. These are all. So let's look at some of the prerequisites for this particular course. To have a better understanding and also appreciate this particular course, that's database management system, students should have an extensive also better understanding of Java, C, and also C++, and also Python programming. At least you must also know how to build a web-based application, or also willing to learn. So even if you don't have the foundation, that is, if you don't have knowledge in Java, C, and C++ or Python, you should also be willing to learn, because I will introduce you to Java, C, and also C++, which will help you in writing or developing good database management system. Email to this course. If you want to email or if you want to communicate to me with respect to this course, you can do so through email or through the WhatsApp page that we have created. If you have any question or problem, you can talk to your group. The first thing to do is to contact your course mate. If there is no solution to your problem, then you can contact me or through my TA. Or you can book an appointment with me and come to my office and have an interaction with me. Thank you for enjoying my class. If you really enjoyed this particular lesson, you have to subscribe to my YouTube channel and also share this particular lesson with your colleagues. Thank you, and we'll meet next time.